So I'm going to share with you guys my thoughts on the Panasonic S1 after having this thing and using it all the time for 6 months. Actually more like 7 now, because I am a little bit behind on making this video. But let's go ahead and dive into it. So if any of you guys follow my channel, you know when I got the Panasonic S1, I pre-ordered it. And when I received the S1, I had my first Panasonic S1 go bad after 2 days. It actually kind of ruined part of my trip to Yosemite. I planned on using the S1 to capture a lot of really cool images and shots, video clips, things like that. And it just kind of locked up on me. I think it was the image stabilization. And so that was my first experience with the Panasonic S1. You can check out that video. I'll leave a card actually over here for you guys. But that was my first impressions on the camera, and I liked everything about the camera. I thought it was really awesome, but for the price I was a little bit weary since that happened. But I can say I did buy the camera from B&H. They took care of it right away. Panasonic was in contact with me. They were very concerned about what had happened to the camera, and they wanted to know right away what had happened to it, and so that they can see if there was anything that needed to be addressed. So from the customer service standpoint, everything was amazing. I got my next Panasonic S1 within a few days, and I was back up and running again. And so I've used this camera for a ton of things since I've gotten it. I've done corporate shoots, I've done portrait stuff, I've done all my YouTube videos since then. Just a lot of different work that I've done with this. I've done a lot of videos at my church with it, just so many different things. And I can tell you that this camera is amazing. And it just keeps getting better and better. So they released the filmmakers upgrade for this camera, and that added vlog to this camera. It added just a ton of features, waveforms, all those things to this camera, and just really took this camera to the next level. And it wasn't just vlog light, but the full vlog. And they gave it more dynamic range, just a ton of features. And with every single firmware update that they do on this camera, it just keeps getting better as well. So not just the filmmakers upgrade. So if you want to buy this camera and you're not really wanting to dish out the money for the video stuff because you're not so sure that you're going to use that, they still add a bunch of stuff throughout the different firmware versions that they do for free. Like today, I'll have another video that is going to be coming out before this one about the new firmware update that they announced for this camera, version 1.3, and they're adding a whole bunch more features to it, including they're giving you manual exposure mode in the high frame rates, because this camera does up to 180 frames per second, which is really cool for some really awesome, very smooth, buttery slow motion footage. And so as you can see here, I've built this thing out quite a bit. I've got cage on here by Shape, really awesome cage with the top handle. I've got my Deity Connect wireless system for this camera. I've got several different FOTCA monitors and my FOTCA DP500 matte box. And right here on it, I've got the just kit lens 24-105, which is really the only lens that I use on this camera right now. I'm kind of waiting for a few things to come out before getting some more lenses and just buying other gear, because really this lens is super sharp and is very versatile. I would like it to be a little bit faster than f4, but it still does just about everything that I need. And so very excited about this camera and just the things that it can do. I don't really have any complaints about this camera at all. Some people complain about the weight and how heavy it is, but I really actually kind of like it. I mean, a lot of people, if you watch YouTube videos on camera builds and stuff like that, where people are putting together their rigs, a lot of the other cameras, they're actually trying to make them heavier just so they can get a more stable shot. And so this camera already being a little bit beefy, which I like, it has a real professional, real pro feel to it. A good amount of weight without being super heavy. You know, and when you add all the other features that this camera has, I mean, the in-body stabilization on this, there's nothing that compares to it out there. I mean, this thing has the best in-body stabilization. There's many times that you don't even need to use a gimbal or anything like that, because you can just take this thing handheld, especially if you have it on a rig like this. I mean, you can really get some stable shots out of it without having to use a gimbal. So just want to take a quick moment and ask you guys, if you are not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button down below, as well as that bell for notifications. Really trying to do something with this channel, and I really want to make a difference here on YouTube. So I would appreciate your support. I don't want to take too much of your time with that, and I thank you guys if you guys already are subscribers. And let's get back into the video. I guess maybe one complaint that I do have is that it has the XQD slot and an SD slot instead of 2 SD slots. But you know, as of today, Panasonic announced the firmware version 1.3, they've added some CF Express card compatibility, and you know, taking the speed of those up quite a bit. So they might be doing something there where maybe they might be adding some kind of raw support or something like that. But yeah, this camera is just amazing. I mean, the EVF is amazing. The screen on the back is amazing, although you know, I still use a monitor most of the time. I mean, every button on here, you can assign it to do whatever you want. You have different user menus that you can create, so you know, custom menus. So when you're doing certain stuff, you just flip to your preset and it brings up everything that you want to use in that mode. So whether you want to have stuff specifically for photos, specifically for videos, you can do all of that. The full frame sensor is amazing, so it's really good in low light. There's actually some kind of hidden features that they don't really talk about on this camera. For instance, a lot of people believe that this has dual ISO support, or dual native ISOs. And I've seen it myself, to where when you're in a low ISO, you know, everything's nice and clear, but when you need to bump up your ISO because you're in low light, it starts to get a little bit noisy. But then once you hit 4,000, it cleans up. And so it's almost like as if it has dual native ISO, although Panasonic doesn't announce that. And so even at 4,000 ISO, the image is very clean in this. And there is some 5K video recording capabilities that they don't talk about. So if you go into 6K photo mode, and you know, you can make it to where it'll shoot for 10 minutes straight, no audio on it, or I believe it's no audio on it, and it will shoot 5K all the way through. And that's meant so you can pick your picture that you want out of all of those frames, but you don't have to pick a picture, and you can just save that whole file, and it's actually a 5K video file. So it has some hidden 5K features there, which is really cool if you want that. And so, but you don't even need that, because the 4K that comes out of this camera, I use Vlog most of the time now that I have Vlog, but even just the standard colors that come out of this thing, even if you do the natural colors or standard colors, they're really good. The color science that they've put in this camera is a lot better than previous Panasonic cameras. And so just overall, I would say if you're on the fence about buying this camera, it is super exciting, and it's well worth it. A lot of people kind of bashed the L-mount Alliance, you know, when it first came out, and said that they're making a wrong choice by doing that. But you can see there's a lot of support coming behind it, and a lot of people are really jumping on board, and Sigma's kind of following through with their stuff. I mean, they came out with their own L-mount camera, and you know, Panasonic's releasing their new lenses, and a lot of people are trying out this camera, and they're finding out how amazing this camera is and how much it can do, and they're jumping on board with it. And so now that the Panasonic S1H is out, you know, they're doing a lot with their full frame and with that L mount. And I'm sure as time goes on, you know, more stuff is going to be coming out. Sigma is going to be releasing more of their lenses. Panasonic is already releasing more of their lenses, and so things are going to start becoming more available. That was kind of the hard thing for me getting the you know, pre-order of this camera. Was it took time even to get raw support for this camera, because I'm not an Adobe person, and so, you know, I rely on like Affinity Photo, or I rely on you know, Mac's internal processing engine for raw, and they just added that like about a month ago, and so I didn't even have the capability of processing my raw photos other than internal on the camera. But even just the JPEGs that came out of it were super good, so, you know, didn't really bother me too much. But now I have the capability of doing that, and now they keep adding more stuff, and more support is coming out for this camera. So I would say if you're on the fence to buy this camera, definitely do it, because I'm past 6 months now. Like I said in the intro of this video, I'm more towards 7 months, because I've just kind of been taking my time on this video and had other stuff to do. But I would definitely recommend it. I wouldn't mind buying another one. Actually, my son was asking me today if I'd like to have another one of these, and I would, although I'd probably buy the S1H and make that my A camera and use this as my B camera, or my camera for stills. And so definitely an awesome camera. I highly recommend it. Yeah. So if you have any questions, if you'd like to know more about my rig here and what I've set up, a few things are going to be changing on this, but this is what I've got for now, and it's been working great for me. So if you want to know any questions about that, if you guys would like to see me break this thing down for you guys, let me know down in the comments section below. Any questions at all, I'd like to hear from you guys. So other than that, I will see you on the next one.